All right, all right. Welcome to another of our amazing influential event, impact events, leadership workshop, and awesome event speaker series. I'm so honored to have the amazing Abraham Heisler with me today for us to talk about his amazing genius and how he is going to be bringing some powerful stuff to this epic event. Hello, welcome.
Hey, good to see you. Good to be here.
Good to see you too. Oh, I love it. So, before we get into all the juicy teaser of what's going to be happening, I would love for you to take a moment and introduce yourself and tell them a bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, my name is Abraham. I'm a mindset and performance coach. I've worked with hundreds of various different entrepreneurs and business owners to help them to increase what's called flow state, which is kind of a buzzword, but it's the ability to increase productivity, clarity, certainty, reduce fear, doubt, anxiety, essentially become superhuman, in the words of Stephen Kotler. And a little bit about me, my background for the last 20 years, I've studied the connection between mind, body, spirit, business, and have really taken different modalities that we have available to us to shift state, to shift consciousness, to increase our ability to show up and crush it in the world. And so that's what I provide, and that's the magic that I bring.
In magic, it is. I have been honored and blessed to have you in our ecosystem, bringing your
That's been
magic
great.
month after month after month, and what it has allowed all of us to do. I mean, because I partake in my own
Mm-hmm.
program,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you do.
So
Yeah.
you gotta live it to lead it,
Yeah.
and as much as what I've seen, the powerful transformation with all of our amazing clients as well. I would love for you to share a bit about the magic you're going to be bringing to the event,
Yeah.
because obviously what you do is unlike anything I've ever experienced from with anybody else.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think I'll start with this basis. I've worked with hundreds of different entrepreneurs, business professionals who the performance matters, right? It's like if you own a business, if you're out there hustling, doing your thing, it's like the way you show up has everything to do with the results that you're going to get, right? And so it's important to really perform at our peak, and almost we have to look at our energy levels, our lifestyle, almost as if we're athletes, because in a way we are, right? And so, the biggest sort of, I guess, set of hindrances that I've come across in my time, and the work that I've done with people is, of course, there's fear, doubt, worry, anxiety, all that type of stuff. But there's also the components of procrastination, putting things off, not confronting, not being, on top of the ball with certain things. There's the inner self critic, right? That constant inner dialogue that's questioning, doubting, looking at social media and saying, wait a second, this person does this, what about me? So there's those two things, inner self-critic, procrastination, and you know, there's one more. I'm leaving it out at this moment. I'll come back to it in a second. But it's like, here's the thing. It's overthinking, overanalysis. Sorry, that was the last one. Overanalyzing, right? So these are sort of the killers to progress, and really what that is actually is a symptom of an overstimulated prefrontal cortex. And what I mean by that is that our part of the brain that's responsible for rational thinking, decision making, we need it. It's the executive function of the brain. It's entirely overstimulated with all of the elements of modern day living, right? The digital deluge, the thinking, the this, that, the other. And so what happens is we don't have controls on our brain. Like, we don't know how to turn it off. We don't know how to turn it on. So we drink coffee, we use stimulants, we do all sorts of different things, right? And so what I have researched is, what are the different ways that we can actually affect our nervous system, affect our brain, so that we can function in an optimal way. And one of the techniques that I found to be most useful is something called breath work. Now, a lot of people are familiar with breath work through Wim Hof. He talks all about the health benefits of doing active breathing. I'm inspired by a man named Dr. Stanislav Grof, who introduced something called holotropic breathwork, which is it's an incredible way to again shift our consciousness from this sort of waking state and got to do my things, beta brainwave, to an alpha, even what's called theta brainwave, which is what's happening when we're dreaming, when we're in deep sleep, when we're having powerful sort of experiences or trance-like states in our life, which are great because really what it comes back to is this idea of being in the flow, right? Being out of our head, out of our prefrontal cortex, leveraging other aspects of our neuroanatomy and physiology, and being in a place where we're not constantly questioning ourselves, we're not overanalyzing, but we're just in that flow state where the answers come easily and naturally, and it's just like we're a clear channel rather than having to, feel like we're like stuck in the mud or moving through the muck in order to accomplish anything. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. I mean, and for those of you watching, I mean, leave a comment if you know what it's like to be in that flow state. I see this happen a lot when people are speaking on stage, right? Or somebody asks a question and you just get into this flow and people will be like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And I'm like, awesome. What did I say?
Right. It's almost like you're not even, like you're more present than you've ever been. Mm-hmm. But you're not the one kind of like pushing the buttons. It's like there's this thing that's just like flowing through you, which is the most beautiful feeling in the world.
I love being able to shut off self in that way, right? To be able to shut off self, shut off ego, shut off all the bullshit that gets in the way and slows things down and become so present. Right. That it really is. We're so singularly focused. And so, as you said, our performance, our productivity goes up significantly because we're able to eliminate the distraction. Right. And I think you made such a beautiful point about how overstimulated we are. I think a lot of people think they have ADD or ADHD, and yet when you combine this elevated nervous system that is our trauma response, and then obviously all of this overstimulation, and then the tertiary aspect of demanding more of ourselves as we elevate our leadership requirements.
Right.
Okay, well now we're maxed out.
Right, exactly. And we have cognitive overload, right? Which is why it's important to leverage. So, if you read a book like, so for instance, Psycho-Cybernetics, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, he talks about, really leveraging the power of the subconscious mind to accomplish really difficult tasks rather than having to try to figure it out and force it. It's like we have this latent power within us. And so it's just a matter of understanding our system and how it works and the programming and allowing things to get done through us rather than us having to force results.
I mean, it's biohacking, really, right?
It is, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if we're looking for that edge, why go through 7 steps to get to the solution when you can just make that direct line through the subconscious and avoiding all of the extra crap to get to your clear answer, and then trusting that inner knowing of like, oh, well, that was easy, and being okay with it. Because I know there's a lot of that underlying programming that like, wait, that was just too easy. Now we've got the result is then doubt and question.
Right. Well, that's why the physiology and the psychology go hand in hand, right? The mindset work, working on all the different assumptions that we have and the stories and the narratives and the voices from our past that say, wait a second, you can't do this, or it has to be hard, or, X, Y, and Z. So it's like, it's a twofold process, which is why I always say I'm a mindset and performance coach, because it's really about hacking our psychology just as much as it's about hacking our physiology. And you can't have one without the other. You can't, just sitting on a couch and talking about your problems doesn't work either, right? We need to change what's going on in our nervous system. So.
Well, and I love that that's how, really all of the different experts that are coming to this event are in that same belief system and function there by applying their genius in that way, where we're addressing physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual all at the same time. So nothing's getting left behind.
Right.
And then how do you integrate all of these pieces into your life, your leadership, your business, the legacy and the impact that you're creating? Because it's all of it goes together. We can't just focus on strategy and expect our business to be absolutely amazing, and then also our health and our relationships to be fulfilling.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's that's really the sign of the times. This sacrificing of health, sacrificing of relationships in order to achieve success. But then, of course, it comes back and bites you in the ass, right? So there needs to be a much more holistic model of creating success that is more expansive than what we're used to.
Absolutely. And at the same time, that expansive model allows things to happen so much faster. I think everyone's always looking for that hack, that edge, that shortcut to success, of course, without bypassing anything. But a lot of those other, kind of the old school way of just hustle into it ends up creating its own invisible ceiling where that we're just going to max out and end up creating our own limitation.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. In which book is it? I don't know if it's Becoming Superman or Stealing Fire, but Stephen Kotler, who's done a lot of work on researching flow states amongst executives, Navy SEALs, athletes. He talks about that there's 4 different stages of the flow state, right? It's not that you're in flow all the time. That's impossible, right? And it's an illusion to think that we can magically switch pull on a lever and everything just happens automatically. We have to do the work. We have to hustle. We have to put in the effort, put the time on the court, put the miles on the road, whatever it is. But that's only the first stage. The second stage is knowing when to let go, right? Knowing when to surrender. And this is if you think of Einstein having his breakthroughs while going out sailing, right? Or people who have all these creative, sort of inspirations, when they're not in the lab, but they're somewhere else, right? Or when you can't remember, like just now, I couldn't remember the third problem that people have, analysis paralysis. Instead of trying to, get all stressed about it, it's just like, let it go. And then all of a sudden it just came to me. And that's the thing, that's the problem that a lot of people have, entrepreneurs, people in positions of leadership, where there's a lot at stake. There's a lot riding on what you're doing. A lot of people counting on you. It's like we often neglect that second stage of the release, the let go and surrender. And it's this constant, I have to solve it. I have to solve it now. And we miss our opportunity to move into a flow state. And we end up spending more resources, whether time, money, effort, whatever it is, energy, to try to solve this problem. Whereas if we could just actually know when to stop, relax, get a good night's rest, all of that could be solved, in much less time, fewer resources spent. We could essentially be more efficient with our resources. And that's really what it comes down to.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I feel like I'm way more efficient because we're, psychologically and biologically circumventing the resistance, making it so much harder. Right. But I know that was one of my storylines. It was like, ooh, I've got to struggle, suffer, sacrifice to prove my worth and desirability. It's got to be hard, or I didn't earn it.
Exactly. No, that's huge. And it's interesting because there's people like the Gary Vaynerchuks, the Elon Musk, who talk about you have to work, 100 hours a week, right? And so we look up to that model, that meta model, and so that's kind of like we graft it onto our work life. But what people don't realize is people like Elon Musk and Gary Vaynerchuk, that's when they're in flow, is when they're working 100 hours a week and they're just going. That's who they are. Like me personally, when I'm working on a creative project, I love to work. I'm in my flow and I'll work a lot, right? But that doesn't mean that that's the only way to achieve success or to solve a problem. I mean, when you shift certain stories within your neural wiring, right? And you can create new neural pathways. all of a sudden you circumvent so much. You know, I've been so much more successful. I've earned more money. I've, you know, gotten the relationships that I wanted. I've done this, I've done that with like a quarter of the effort, just by shifting my approach or my thinking around a certain strategy, if you will.
Oh, I love that. I mean, because right now we're actually open to receive all of those things that we desire. So good. And I love that you brought up Stealing Fire, because it was in Stealing Fire. I'm actually reading it right now. I'm almost done.
Nice.
Go figure,
Good
the
book.
influential person reading the book about flow.
There you go.
So I would love for you to share a bit about what makes this influential event and workshop different from other things you've been a part of and have attended.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. Well, for one, the community is awesome, right? The people that I've met, you know, in the ecosystem and that we're bringing together is there's just a vibe of openness that I really appreciate. You know, it's funny. It's like I've been around a lot of open people, but maybe not so motivated or ambitious or successful. And then I've been around a lot of motivated, ambitious, successful people, but I had zero connection with them, right? I felt like they just weren't my tribe, essentially. And what I really appreciate about you, Stacey, and the people that you bring together is that it's really the merger of the two worlds, right? Really highly successful, ambitious people who are here to win in the world and make some shit happen, right? But at the same time are open-minded, open-hearted people, people that I can connect with. There's no ego and posturing and this and that, which is, I think it's important. And I think you told this to me at one point too. It's nice to come into a place where you don't have to wear the armor and you don't have to put on the mask and everything. And you can really just be yourself. And that's really when your power shines. That's when the most amount of growth happens, with that element of vulnerability. And that's only possible when there's trust, right? And so that's what I'm trying to say here is that first and foremost, and there's other reasons as well why this event's going to be amazing, but first and foremost, the vibe, the trust, the underlying energy, which is everything, is there, right? There's just like this element of trust, which is great amongst people, which is beautiful. So magic happens in that environment, in that setting. So that's number one. Two, just the diversity. You know, I'm looking at the roster. I'm looking at all the different things that people are bringing to the table. And I mean, it's great. It goes far beyond the level of strategy. Now, strategy is important. We need strategy. There's no question about it. But again, if we don't have the right mindset, the right approach, if we're approaching strategy with the wrong assumptions, then it's going to render the results useless, right? And so what I really appreciate is that we're going much deeper than the layer of strategy. We're going down to the layer of story, myth, metaphor. And without getting all caught up into woo-wooey, right? It's like we're in this perfect balance where we're really getting at the heart of what creates success, what, not just in business, but in life, right? What creates a successful life of growth and expansion, but then also is effective, right? It gives us the right tools and the right inner strategy. And that's really what I'm trying to say, is that it's not just what's going on in the business externally and what is my P&L saying and, you know, how many people I have to hire, but it's actually what's going on internally, what's going on with me, who am I, and how am I showing up as a leader, which is incredibly, it's just absolutely essential to accomplishing my goals as a leader and to creating the impact and the legacy that I ultimately want to create. So for those reasons, I think it's going to be just an absolutely amazing event.
It is going to be a game changer. Thank you so much. I mean, I appreciate that reflection so deeply, because I agree with you. I really have struggled most of my life trying to find that tribe and that community that I could deeply resonate fully with all parts of myself, because I love being able to be deeply open and emotionally available to connect with like-minded people, to receive all of the things that I desire in the world, and that being a big part of the impact I'm here to make, while at the same time doing it quickly because we're high performers and we want to make some epic shit happen. And we're called to this higher purpose and this impact in the world, and really allow these things to happen quickly, because it is about this ripple effect of impact that we're here to make. And I know that is the people that are coming to this event as well.
Great.
You know, as I always say, is like the quintessential alpha leader, where it's the high sensitivity and the high sensation seeking, you know, the empathy and the drive. Like, we can have it all.
Right.
And that is a fabulous place to function when we balance it so beautifully. So if anybody is on the fence about getting a ticket to join us, and why this event, why now for their 2022, why do they need to make sure that they get their tickets and join us?
Well, you don't want to miss out. I can't tell you, you know, I'm not the oldest guy in the room, and I'm also not the youngest. And I just, there's so many different opportunities in my life that I've missed out on. And I said, okay, I'll get it next time or next year. And you know what? It never comes around. Not that the event doesn't happen again or the opportunity doesn't happen again, but I was in a different place and I just wasn't able to take advantage of that opportunity. And so really, with everything that's going on, the last few years that we've had collectively, globally, it's like now more than ever is the time to come together and to really work on ourselves, right? And to empower, strengthen, build that resiliency inside of ourselves. Now more than ever, we need the leaders, right? We have to become the leaders that we've been waiting for. And so do not, if you are even just at like remotely thinking about coming, get out of your head. You're overanalyzing, you're procrastinating, you're putting it off, right? You're doing everything that we're talking about here. You got to get into that flow state, get out of your prefrontal cortex and trust your body, trust your instincts, your intuition, show up at the event, and I guarantee you're not going to regret it.
It will change your life, your leadership, and your legacy, for sure.
Yeah. And those around you too.
Exactly. We've got to lead by example, and it elevates everyone. Our teams, our partners, our families, our kids, everybody that we're here to impact. So I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your genius today. I think the most exciting piece to this is how experiential this entire 2 days will be, and we get to experience this process with you, this very unique type of breathwork that you do. I'm so excited to do it in a room live with so many people. I know how powerful it is just on Zoom. I can't wait to do it live with you. Oh, that is truly going to be so powerful. Just that alone is worth the investment to get to do that in group.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much for joining us. And for those of you who are watching, be sure to head on over to vipstacy.com/impact to reserve your seats, because doors will be closing soon and seats are limited. We're keeping this an intimate space for real support, real transformation, one-on-one time, breakout sessions. You will have the space to do the work, make the shifts, and leave way better than how you walked in. We'll say that way, right? You get to be better than how you were when you walked in. So thanks again for joining us. Like I said, head on over to vipstacy.com/impact, and we will see you there in February. Thanks for joining us.